For decades, we thought we had the story of the world's first cities figured out. It was a story dominated by southern Mesopotamia, the land between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers. Great metropolises like Uruk were the brilliant core, the heart of civilization, and everything else was the periphery, a less developed landscape that simply received culture and provided raw materials. But what if that story is wrong? What if the periphery wasn't so peripheral after all? In the foothills of the Zagros Mountains in modern Iraqi Kurdistan, a small archaeological site called Kani Shaie is sending echoes through history, forcing us to redraw the map of the ancient world and rethink the very dawn of urban life. Welcome to G Fun Facts Online. Today, we're digging into the story of a monumental discovery that challenges one of the biggest theories in archaeology. Kani Shaie is not a huge, sprawling city ruin. The main mound covers just about half a hectare, but its power lies in its location. Nestled in the Bazian Valley, about 23 kilometers from the city of Suleymaniye, Kani Shaie sits on a major ancient highway, a trade and communication route that connected the Mesopotamian plains with the resource-rich Iranian plateau. For millennia, it was a crossroads of cultures, and archaeologists have found layers of history here dating all the way back to 6000 BCE. Since 2013, the Kani Shaie Archaeological Project, a joint effort by universities in Portugal and the UK, along with the local Suleymaniye Directorate of Antiquities, has been meticulously uncovering this site's secrets. And what they found is nothing short of revolutionary. The biggest bombshell dropped during the 2025 excavation season. On the upper part of the mound, the team unearthed a monumental building from the late Uruk period, dating to around 3300 BCE. This wasn't just any large structure. Its features screamed important. The archaeologists believe it was a cultic space, a temple for religious rituals and community gatherings. And the evidence is compelling. One of the most visually stunning finds were decorative clay cones, sometimes called wall cones. Imagine thousands of these small clay cones, their flat ends painted in black, red, and white, being pressed into the wet plaster of a building's walls. They would have formed incredible, colorful geometric mosaics, shimmering in the sun. This technique is a famous hallmark of the grand temples in the great southern city of Uruk, almost 500 kilometers away. Finding this signature architectural style so far north was a clear sign of a powerful cultural connection, but the clues didn't stop there. Inside the building, the team found a fragment of a gold pendant. Gold was incredibly rare and precious in ancient Mesopotamia. Its presence here, in a small mountain community, points to significant wealth and status, challenging the old idea that these areas were poor backwaters. And then there were the cylinder seals. If you're not familiar, a cylinder seal was a small, intricately carved stone cylinder that was rolled across wet clay, leaving a unique impression. It was the ancient equivalent of a signature used to seal doors, jars, and documents. It was the heart of Uruk period administration and bureaucracy. Finding Uruk-style cylinder seals at Kani Shaie means its inhabitants weren't just aware of these complex administrative practices, they were active participants. So you have a monumental building, decorated in the grand style of the southern cities, filled with luxury goods like gold, and using the same administrative tools. For a long time, the explanation would have been simple. The dominant theory, called the world system or core periphery model, argued that the highly organized, resource-poor cities of the south, the core, set up colonies and outposts in the surrounding periphery to extract raw materials like timber, stone, and metals. In this model, Kani Shaie would have been just a colonial outpost, a southern implant on a local landscape, with the local people being passive recipients of a superior culture. But the evidence from Kani Shaie tells a much more interesting, more complex story. This wasn't a one-way street. The archaeologist noticed that the building, while having many southern Mesopotamian features, also had unique local characteristics. Furthermore, alongside the Uruk-style cylinder seals, they also found seals carved in a distinct local style. This suggests Kani Shaie wasn't a simple colony. It was a vibrant, powerful local center with its own identity, one that was actively engaging with the wider Mesopotamian world. The people of Kani Shaie were not being dominated, they were negotiating. They were making conscious choices about which parts of Southern culture to adopt, which to adapt, and which to reject. This discovery shifts our entire perspective. The relationship wasn't one of domination, but of interaction and mutual influence. The Zagros highlands were not just a quarry for the South. They were a dynamic region of complex societies that engaged with the Mesopotamian plains on their own terms. And Kani Shaie is not an isolated case. Other sites in the region, like Godin Tepe in Iran, show a similar complex interplay between local and southern cultures. It seems the highlands were a crucial partner, not a passive subject, in the trade networks that fueled the rise of the world's first cities. But the story of Kani Shaie is much deeper than this single, incredible building. The site's long, continuous occupation gives us a rare window into the development of a single community over thousands of years. The earliest settlements date to the Halaf and Ubaid periods, between 6000 and 4000 BCE, showing that this strategic spot was home to small farming villages from very early on. Then came the Uruk period, from about 4000 to 3100 BCE, which we've seen was a time of major growth, culminating in the construction of that monumental temple. The wealth and organization needed to build and maintain such a structure suggests a highly successful and prosperous community. But history is rarely smooth. At the end of the Uruk period, around 3000 BCE, the settlement was destroyed in a massive fire. But this wasn't the end for Kani Shaie. The community proved to be incredibly resilient. They leveled the ruins of the old Uruk settlement and built a new town directly on top, marking the beginning of the early Bronze Age at the site. Excavations of these early Bronze Age layers have revealed a community that was not just surviving, but thriving through clever organization. Archaeologists found a large, circular building that was clearly used for storing grain on a massive scale. Nearby was another complex that seems to have functioned as a food distribution center. And crucially, this area was littered with clay ceilings, the impressions left by cylinder seals, showing that sophisticated administrative control over food and resources continued long after the Uruk period ended. Analysis of preserved plant remains tells us what they were growing and storing: barley, emmer wheat, lentils, chickpeas, and peas. The evidence for large-scale surplus storage and distribution suggests Kani Shaie may have acted as a service station, provisioning travelers and nomadic groups moving along the critical trade route through the valley. The pottery from this period tells the same story of connectivity. The ceramic fragments are an eclectic mix of styles. You have Ninevite 5 pottery from the north, scarlet ware from the south, and alongside them, a beautiful and distinct locally painted style. Kani Shaie was clearly a cultural melting pot, a crossroads with deep connections in every direction. Even after the main mound was abandoned, the story continues. Layers from the Neo-Assyrian and Parthian empires have been found in the lower town, and an Ottoman-era cemetery speaks to the continuous human presence in the valley. The discoveries at Kani Shaie are a powerful reminder that history is never a finished book. Our understanding of the past is constantly being revised by new evidence. This small mound in the Zagros foothills is forcing us to rethink the very nature of civilization's dawn. The periphery was not a passive landscape waiting to be civilized. It was a dynamic, creative, and essential part of the story. The work at Kani Shaie is far from over, and future excavations will undoubtedly reveal even more secrets about this ancient community. But the echoes from the Zagros are already clear. They tell us of a world that was far more interconnected, complex, and surprising than we ever imagined. changing the way we think about the rise of our urban world. Thanks for joining us at G Fun Facts Online.